Hello and welcome to Learning Excel 2013. My name is Mike Henry and this is the 7th video from Tutorial 4. In this video we're going to take a look at how to really format that clustered column chart that we created in video 6, really make it look good and bring it together. So with our clustered column chart in place now, let's go ahead and do some editing to make it look good. One of the first things you can see is chart title right there doesn't look that good. So by clicking on it, I'm allowed to put in whatever title I want, and in this case we'll put in here the title of Project It. And what I want you to see is I am typing. I have this up here, but if you see up here, you can see now what I am typing in. It says Project It, and this will be the title when we put this in place, or when I hit enter. Projected revenue and expenses. So you can see that goes right into place. Now with this particular chart title, I have the ability for here on the Home tab to change this to a different font. In this case I'll go with the light, and then I also have the ability to change the text color. So in this case we can go with a text color of blue, and that's what they're asking for in the book. So I do have control over that title. Now with other things that I can control in here, there's many different ways to get to certain things, and I want to show you some key ways to do some things. So one of the ways that you can make some changes is I could click right on here, and if I double click on it, that will open up a formatting area that would allow me to format on that. So you can always point and double click. Another way is up here on your chart tools, if you go to the tab called Format, you can see when I click on something it tells me what I'm clicked on. Right now it's on the vertical axis. If I click on in here, you can see that I'm on the series of the total expenses. So by clicking on it, I can have that come up and be valid, and then right here I can always go Format Selection 2. And then there's other ways to drop down through. So while we're on this section here, we're going to change the maximum number from 2 million. So instead of it being 2 million, I'm going to put it at 1,750,000. And that's going to be the top of the number that'll be in here. And you can see as I've done that, that's now the top of the chart. But the increments are kind of off a little, and I'd rather have some different increments. So here where it says units, that's really your increments of change, and I'm going to put this at 250,000. So every quarter million we're going to have a change, and you can see now that gives us a little bit more spacing. It looks a little bit more even and easy to read. I could put in minor changes too, which would put tick marks in here. You can see I have that ability to control that, and then down here I can even change my tick marks if I wanted those. So that makes my verticalness of here look. I can always close this, and you can see that now I'm right up to the top because I have one here at roughly 1.7 million. And the next thing I want to do in here is I'm going to talk about some of the grid lines. Now I can get to grid lines here. Now for those of you who have been around the block and have used some of the older versions, you would remember there was a tab up here, and on that tab we could go to a place called grid lines. That's now been really put here, and so you can see when I click over here that it brings up my chart elements, and then over here I have grid lines, and I'm just going to click on my More Grid Lines button, and you can see right now it says I'm showing you the primary major horizontal lines, which you can see coming across the screen. What I don't have is the vertical ones, so I'm going to click here, and you can see now I've got the primary vertical lines. So I can see that this is year 9, this would be year 8, and then I can see my lines going up and down. If I did have minors in there, I could put those in, and I could see those lines too. So you can see really quickly I can put in that and give myself a different look. Now one of the things you'll notice with our data here is these are very skinny and tall data sets. One of the things we can do is if you click on these, I double clicked on it, it brought up my Format the Data series. You can see I get this thing called gap width. And I'm going to take this gap width and I'm going to just run it down. And I hope as you see I'm running this down, how the data series are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the space in between them is getting smaller and smaller. So when we talk about gap width, we're talking about that gap's width in relationship to one data set. So the gap width is 42% of one of these. So you can see they become really much bigger. Now in the book they asked us to put this at 150. Now I could sit here and run it to 150, or it's a lot easier to just highlight this and go 150. And so when I tab off of that, you can see it's 150%. So they wanted a little bit more gap in here. So the gap in here is 1.5 one of these. So it gives us a taller piece of data. Okay. And then some of the things that they asked us to do is they wanted us to color the background here. So if I double click here, you can see I bring up my format chart area. I have the ability to do fill, and in this case I'm going to do a solid fill, and you can see it immediately turns everything blue. But they asked us to do a gold, so let me find my gold, and they wanted a gold 80, so I put my gold 80 in here. But one of the things it asked me is this area in here, they wanted to keep that white. So by clicking on here, you can see I just went to the plot area, and with the plot area I'm going to go fill, except this time I'm going to turn my fill into a white, and now what you can see is I've got my gold in the back here, and then I've got my clear white here, and my gold is matching over here. So I've got a nice looking chart. So we learned how to format a clustered column chart. And a lot of the things we learned in this were not only just for a clustered column chart, but we're going to see how it's used again for a line chart, or we saw some of these things being used for a pie chart and other charts. So not everything is just for the clustered column. We learned a lot for all the different charts that we're going to see in this particular chapter.